we're back. Welcome. Let's get right into it.
It is good that you salvaged as many Templars as you did, my dear. We will need every Templar, but they will require proper management. We also need to increase our lyrium supplies considerably. The Chantry may still have stockpiles we can use.
Cullen will look into it. He must already have a supply line.
He undoubtedly did. But it was established before the Divine Conclave. The situation has changed. The breach has done more than disfigure the sky. The veil itself is broken. All mages, no matter how skilled, are now in danger of drawing demons to them. Before this crisis is over, you may find that Templars, flawed as they may be, are all that stand between us and chaos.
You have a low opinion of your fellow mages.
It's not so much an opinion as grasping the obvious. Magic is dangerous, just as fire is dangerous. Anyone who forgets this truth gets burned.
You're preaching to the choir, Vivian.
Tell me something. You told me that you'd see the Chantry restored. What about the Circle?
The Circle has to be restored if we want to keep the peace.
That's comforting to hear, but you'll find opposition to the idea even among friends. It's something to consider, my dear.
Major brownie points with Vivian. She was right about controlling the Templars. Apparently it's trending to turn into an abomination and kill everybody. Hashtag abomination kill everybody or something. What is it about dwarves in this game? Dwarves are adorable, aren't they?
Tell you, Ambassador.
Scout Harding.
Some fuss when
Scout Harding, yeah.
The Inquisition must certainly seem an audacious idea to the Grand Clerics. We hope to convince them it is a necessary one as well.
You know, dwarfs mean lyrium. Speaking of lyrium...
I'll take my leave. Good day.
Who is she, Ambassador?
A merchant. I thought we should reach out to the dwarves to secure lyrium for the Inquisition's Templars. According to Lady Corpin, it raised the ire of the Chantry.
How?
Access to lyrium makes us rather more formidable than anticipated. We're becoming a challenge. Sadly, the remaining Grand Clerics appear to be consolidating the Chantry's power, instead of comforting the masses.
Mage circles started falling years ago. The Chantry was troubled even before the Divine's murder.
Yet many people continue to bear it great love. We will not benefit from its decline. Little but the Chantry ties Orlais, Nevarra, Ferelden, Antiva, and even Rivain to a common cause.
Has the Chantry truly promoted such peace?
Andraste's chant is familiar across kingdoms, a source of many shared customs. That is the crucial point. Common ground is the start of all negotiations.
Are you sure? Families often fight the hardest.
Having grown up among four siblings, I concede your point. I found, however, that the only time two parties cannot negotiate is when they cease to speak. We must learn to think beyond our own wants, to secure peace in Thedas.
How did someone so lovely and selfless go into Orlesian politics?
I'm so full of it.
Well, that is, really, you give me too much credit. While you're here, I do have a question. The remaining Grand Clerics sent a missive inquiring about the events at the Temple of Sacred Ashes. They demand to know whether the Inquisition officially claims that Andraste saved you from the breach. If it were up to you, how would you reply?
Will my answer change your reply to the Chantry?
If Leliana, Cassandra, Cullen, and I could agree on our official stance, I could answer that. We should decide soon. The revered mothers don't seem to know what to make of you.
I'd tell the Chantry I was saved by circumstance, not divine intervention.
Yet as rumors your Andraste's herald grow, the Grand Clerics may not believe such a humble reply. A difficult situation, and I thank you for your answer. A good day to you.
Now this brings up a debate, which is as big, if not bigger, than the Mage Templar deal, and that is, the Chantry. And she would say, coming from a political standpoint, that common ground is the key to, having peace and negotiating and everybody, getting along and blah, blah, blah. Problem is who put themselves in the moral authority to pave that common ground and set the standard by which everyone should attain to reach that common ground. And bottom line is, a lot of people tend to get buried under the pavement when somebody comes along and paves the way and says, this is the common ground upon which we should all agree. And all of you are going to agree. And the bottom line is, if I agreed with you in the first place, as soon as you come along and tell me I have to agree, that's when I say, well, screw you, buddy. I'm going to not agree just on principle. And, the word Inquisition really rings a bad tone in that, I associate things like murder, rape, torture, brainwashing, and all that other evil crap with the word Inquisition, and trying to force me to convert and say with my mouth, oh yes, I love whatever God you represent, just don't kill me. Okay, well that hasn't changed my heart at all. Okay, that doesn't make people agree. It just means they're going to try to save themselves by agreeing with whatever you say, so you don't kill them and their family for no reason in the name of your God or whatever it is you call yourself serving. Tell you what, whatever God you're serving, if you're going to act like that, he must be an asshole. I don't want to have anything to do with it. That's what the person with common sense would think. And so that's not going to work. Okay, so that common ground that she's talking about, that's where the error comes in, is trying to get someone to speak the way you want them to speak so that you can come to an agreement. And people aren't going to talk the way you want them to talk or think the way you want them to think. That's been the cause of all of our problems up to this point, and it always will be, right? That type of thinking. So, I don't know. I'll tell you what, actually, I would kind of like to make this video somewhat of a vlog. I guess I'd like to talk about at least my view on, politics in general and whatever else and Thedas and stuff, because this is going to be kind of a long video. I hate to say it, but a lot of this is just running around gathering things like elf roots and rocks and stuff while I'm looking for these items that I'm actually here for. I want to pick up the magic shards. There's an area we'll be unlocking later where I'm going to need those for some really cool rewards. And I also have Blackwall with me here because he has some warden stuff to find that are scattered around, mostly on the southern end of the island, actually. So I'm probably going to fast travel to a point closer to that area down there. I see a black area by the Hessarian fort, so I think I'll go uncover that. I like to uncover the darkened out areas simply because sometimes you'll come across a codex or something, or maybe some little item that'll give you some history or some little insight into things, whatever, just whatever. And I also want to go down to this cave where there's not only a Fade Rift to close and I think a landmark, but there'll be some more magic shards, and there's also a pattern for the lightning rune. And like in my case, this is the first lightning rune pattern I'm going to uncover, so it'll just be the basic one. But I learned this from another guy in another video. He said that based on the order that you uncover them, decides what level rune pattern you're going to get. Like, for example, if I find some other lightning rune pattern somewhere else, and I get the one here last, I'll get this superb lightning rune pattern. Even though it's the same location, I'll discover it in the same spot. It'll depend on how many I've discovered up to this point. Now, in this case, Storm Coast is the first place I've been to because I don't have many areas in the game unlocked yet. But if I found the other lightning rune patterns first and then came back here last, then I would get the best lightning rune pattern from the same spot. But seeing as I'm getting it first here, I'm just going to get the regular lightning rune pattern. And we're also going to find out how to get some blank runes before we get to Skyhold. I've heard people say once you get to Skyhold, there's a merchant that sells them. And there is, but that's later in the game. But if I want to enchant one of my weapons now, as long as I have the particular essences I need to make that that particular rune, I can get blank runes back at Val Royeaux. Believe it or not, there's a little dwarven merchant. And honestly, I think we can go do it now. I think you have to finish, you have to either side with the Templars or the Mages. You have to make that decision. And then a merchant will pop up in one of the shops in Val Royeaux, and you can get some blank runes before you ever get to the next storyline, main story phase of the game. I guess it's kind of divided into sort of chapters or something. You get to some points that will open up new areas and unlock certain stuff, and might even close off other areas. And I mentioned way earlier at the beginning of this Let's Play that I wanted to save some of these codexes, but not to the point that I lose them by getting them locked away in an area I can't return to. So that's going to be important to keep that in mind. Actually, I'm getting pretty close to that last Inquisitor perk that I need, where I can go back and read. Notice I'm reading a few of these codexes here as I go, because I'm probably not going to come back to these particular out-of-the-way spots to find these. And I don't mind losing, 25 XP here, 25 XP there, or 50 or whatever. It's not a real big deal. But if I have a whole crap ton of codexes all in one spot, like I do at Haven, I'd rather get 150 a piece for those rather than 100 or 50 or something, so I'm definitely doing that. Anyway, so I'm almost to that point, and then we can go to Haven, and we'll probably even level up once, considering how many codexes are just laying around there everywhere. And then I'll talk to all my companions. I'll make a video of that, and I'll give you a heads up ahead of time, party banter or something. I'll label the video, so it's going to be all dialogue, which a lot of these videos are here anyway, especially early on here as we get to know everybody and find locations and talk about stuff. And Dragon Age, I think it's BioWare's way of kind of catching you up to the game if you haven't played previous installments of this series, that you can come in and you don't feel like totally alienated. You don't feel obligated to go back and play Origins and Dragon Age 2. And I think that's cool, is like they're not selling you on their previous games to make you play this one. It's not like that. I would suggest it to anybody, because both those games are just freaking amazing. And I don't care about the haters for Dragon Age 2. I think it's as good as any other Dragon Age. In my opinion, it's different, but it's as good. The combat is just through the roof. It's freaking amazing. Anyway, my opinion. But each to their own, There's other games that I can't stand and other people love. So I expect there'd be people that would hate the games that I love, and that's fine. But anyway, for anyone who hasn't played them, I would definitely strongly suggest at least checking them out. It's definitely worth getting in there and learning about the different companions and the history of the world and all that different stuff. A lot of this will make sense, but this can still make sense. In here is when you find these codexes, if you read them and listen to what your party members have to say and look around and just keep your eyes and ears open, and you can gather a lot of information about the Dragon Age universe and get up to speed pretty quick, actually. But like I say, there's still going to be quite a bit of dialogue, as we've seen up to this point in this series, to where they pretty much, like I say, bring you up to speed and all the different aspects of the game. It's a pretty rich world that they've created here. Anyway, let me discover a few more of these shards here. Forgot to use this skull when I discovered this camp earlier. Actually, these are all pretty close, and then the last few are all in one cave. There's like 3 or 4 of them in one cave. They're just a few feet apart. Cave's pretty treacherous. It's got a fade rift, a million spiders, and some other stuff. But it's rewarding. But that's where we'll also find our lightning rune pattern. Anyway, I would like to pass along, while I'm sitting here running around picking elf roots and stuff, a little viewpoint, and it has relevance in real life, really. They bring it up here in the game, in the Dragon Age world, but it's no less pertinent to us. Is the whole thing on not just religion, but like race and politics and all that other stuff. And there's a point to be made, and you can see it here. And like Vivian said, grasp the obvious. Just step back. Just shut up for a second, Step back, open ears, closed mouth type thing, and take a look at what everybody's doing. And if you look, everybody's tripping. And think about it. People are, and this is important, really. And this is major, and this can I don't know, help in a lot of ways if people would see this. And I don't say, well, see it just because I said so. It's just an observation. It seems common sense to me. I don't know. Someone has to see things. And I'm sure, you know what, in the history of mankind, there have been other people that were right and that were lost in the crowd of people calling them heretics and this and that, and throwing a fit and saying that doesn't go along with tradition, so you need to be crucified or guillotined or imprisoned or cast out or ostracized or defamed or thrown to the lions or whatever because you were right, because you don't go along with the things that we've always done, which result in what you have right now. Every effort at civil rights, every effort at political equality, every effort at ethnic and gender equality, every effort at religious, what would you call it, understanding or peace or whatever. I don't want to say religious equality, but whatever. Every effort that we've had to be one, to all be the same, to all be of one mind and this and that, has not only stripped everybody of their rights and made them resentful for it, which is the cause of all this shit you have today, right? But it's created a lot of confusion, and guess what? It just doesn't work. Look around. Our best efforts at peace result in war. Our best efforts at racial equality and civil rights have resulted in more racial tension and more racial inequality and more racial violence and hate crimes and everything else than in history. It's worse now, even if there aren't still buildings necessarily being burned. We have riots still, as many, if not as before, right? But think about in the days prior, when you had the civil rights movements, you know, around 60s and so on and so forth and all that. It's no better now, at least as far as the mentality of the people goes. If people are refraining in some sense from the physical violence part, which I don't know if that's even any better. It seems like that might even be worse and more common now than it was back then. Just the overall mentality, it's an issue all the time, and it's become distracting. How do people get along with their normal everyday lives when everyone's doing this? And if you notice, most of the people pulling the race card nowadays are the racists themselves. Sorry, but truth. And I'm not even pointing at a color or the other, because you know what? I don't honestly even care. It's not an issue until you're in my face with it, threatening my life with it, type of thing, making it my issue when, you know what, I was just over here minding my own business. We could have been cool until you started being an asshole. That's my opinion. I don't care what color you are, you know, type of thing. But yeah, it's the issue. And everyone who if you've been wronged, all right, then you've got a problem with it. If you saw someone else wrong, you've got a problem with it on their behalf, kind of like Anders in Dragon Age 2. Well, since I don't have a personal issue and they're not imprisoning me personally, I'm going to go take his cause and take it up and go kill everybody and blow everything up type of mentality. Well, shit, that ended well. Okay, well, we're no better here in real life. I mean, seriously, look around, you know. God, there's a lot of bears on this river. Look at this crap. But I have a thought, I have a view, all right, is that if we keep trying to apply the same solutions and we keep getting the same results, maybe we ought to stop that, because that's like, you know, the psychological definition of insanity there, all right? Well, what's a better solution? Well, probably the guy who had it right at some point, somebody killed him for being right, because I'll tell you what, the powers that be, and I'm not trying to go into conspiracy theory or anything else, but the powers that be, if there's not a problem to settle, then they have no purpose for existing, so there's always going to be problems. They're going to make sure of that, all right? So any solution, any truth that comes out that threatens their lie and their traditional way of keeping the whole pond muddied up, all right, then that's probably not going to happen. But for the individual now, this isn't, I guess, for everybody, and like you say, you're not going to get everyone to agree, so I'm just throwing this out there, and if someone doesn't agree, I'm as cool with that as if you do. It doesn't really make any difference to me. You know, it's not all about changing the world. It's about, hey, I'm gonna throw this out there, and it's helped me, and if it helps anybody else, then that's cool. Anything other than that, I don't really care, personally. But anyway, my view is this: if you have different people, isn't it okay to acknowledge that? If you're black or Hispanic or Asian or white, well, if you're black, then guess what? You're not white, Hispanic, or Asian. And if you're Asian, guess what? You're not black, white, or Hispanic. And you know what? Maybe that's okay. Maybe it's actually all right to be different. You know what? Maybe we're not all the same. Maybe we're actually different, and maybe that's cool. You know what? Maybe you do have a different culture. Maybe you have a different food, a different dress, a different speech, a different look, right? Maybe you don't look like me. Is that good or bad? It's neither. It's okay. It's different. And you know what? I think the solution is for me to be able to respect that. Imagine that. Holy shit. Guess what? Maybe that's an answer is I can just be cool with that. I can say, hey, you're a black dude. Your culture is this. And you're the foods that are native to wherever your origins were are that. You know, there is nobody that wouldn't say that chitlins or greens or whatever and what you yourselves might label soul food isn't what it is, all right? And that's your thing. And for those who like that, that's cool. And guess what? If you don't like that, you're not a racist. You just don't like that. Okay? For example, I love Chinese food. I think it's delicious. I'm such a big fan of Chinese food. I'm just all over it. I don't personally eat pork. No, it doesn't make me Jewish, and it doesn't make me this-ist and that-ist. No, it just means I don't eat pork. Personally, I don't. It's for health reasons and other things. That's me. Oh, I love bacon. That's fine. It doesn't make you an anti-porkist or a pro-porkist or anything. It just means you friggin' like bacon. That's it. Okay, so me. All right? I don't like pork. All right? There's a lot of pork in Chinese food. Does that mean I hate Chinese food? No, I don't eat pork.
That should help strengthen
But there's got to be something else. No, there's really not. I just don't eat pork. Okay, well, you like Chinese food, so that means you don't like... No, it doesn't friggin' mean anything. It means I like Chinese food. Okay, but guess what? I hate Korean food. Well, now you're racist against Koreans. No, I don't like Korean food because I think some of the things they throw into their food, I would be scared to put in my trash can for fear of how my kitchen would smell the next day, okay? Some of the ingredients, I've been to a Korean restaurant, some of the stuff that... Some of it doesn't even seem like they cook it. I was really almost offended to see it on the menu. I'm like, wow. And you know what? That's not anything but I wouldn't put that in my mouth. Well, you're hating on... I'm not hating on anything. I'm saying I wouldn't eat that. There's certain things I won't put in my mouth. There's certain things I won't allow in my house, right? It's just the way it is. All right? So, do I have that right? Okay? But on the same token, let's say you show me some Korean fashion. Or let's say you show me some of their native music, and I mean music that would definitely have Korean origin. Well, that's just being Koreanist. No, it's not. It's saying, hey, what music is unique to your people? And then I listen to that and I say, hey, that's really cool. I like that. Well, now you're pro this. No, I'm not. I'm saying I like that. How hard is that to understand? Okay, and so seriously, if people could seriously take it upon themselves to respect another person's color, differences, culture, and their uniqueness as a people, then I think that would add to the whole, not take away from it. Saying I do like this and I don't like that is personal preference. It doesn't make me anything ist. All the ist labels everyone wants to throw on top of everybody that hasn't done a friggin' bit of good yet and never will. Okay? Just shut up. Don't even want to hear that. Don't label me, I won't label you. I don't care. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole. If you're not, you're not. That's about as far as it goes with me. I don't care what color you are. All right? How hard is that? Is that really so difficult? In fact, it seems like all these extra efforts everyone's going to make people see things in a twisted way to agree with them so that they can accomplish something that's never been accomplished and never will, isn't amounting to anything but a whole lot more of what you claim to be trying to prevent by the very shit you're preaching in the first place. How about, if you really just want to get along, how about you get along by just looking at the next guy and saying, hey, that's cool, that's all right. Oh, wait, this guy looks dangerous. Not because of his skin color or whatever, but because he's carrying a weapon, he's got his pants around his ankle, and he is presenting a type of culture that is associated with rape, murder, robbery, this and that, blah, blah, blah. White, black, Hispanic, it doesn't make any difference, all right? And is that stereotyping? No, it's called protecting and defending myself. Not hard. If you have a gangster mentality, then be associated with a gangster. Well, guess what? I'm going to assume you're going to do gangster things, which involve raping, murdering, killing, robbing. Okay, that's what gangsters do. So if you want to be gangster, then yeah, I'm going to say, well, it's because, and being gangster is not a black thing, and it is not a white thing, and it's not a Hispanic thing. It is a gangster thing. It is something that imposes things on other people against their will by means of violence and intimidation. Well, guess what? I'm personally not cool with that. Would I defend myself? Yes. Is it based on your skin color? No. Is it based on the fact that you might kill me for no reason whatsoever while I'm trying to mind my own business? That probably has a lot to do with it. Yeah, it's more complicated than that. And if it seems like somewhat of a rant, well, yeah, because I personally think that maybe, just maybe, this is like a big deal in the world right now. And seeing everyone getting it wrong. Well, oh, no, now you just want to make yourself right. No, guess what? But it's different. If nothing else, it's worth a try. It's worth a try just to respect the next guy and say, hey, you're cool. And being able to say, hey, I like your culture. It's not mine, without being labeled a racist. But just saying, hey, I like your culture. I think it's cool. Hey, except to the Korean guy over here, some of your food smells like piss to me. Well, that's offensive. Well, maybe it's offensive if you're a Korean chef, but, well, there's other Korean food that's actually probably pretty good, but I just have to assume it's being cooked in the same pot as this other stuff. Okay, and does it sound like I'm bragging on Koreans? No. Korean food? A little bit, yeah. And do I have that right? Is that cool to not like that? Still really respect the people. Actually, I have to admire their courage, because there are a lot of Koreans who are in a situation at home, and we can't know a lot about it because they have a really closed society. I guess similar to the way the Russians were a few decades ago, to where they don't have a lot of personal liberties. And in fact, if we think we got it bad over here in the States, I think we need to look over there and realize maybe we need to be a little more grateful and stop bickering so much, because it's really not so bad. That if you don't have anything to complain about, don't go friggin' find something. Why don't you just friggin' chill, do your thing, work your job, get paid, come home, take care of your family, enjoy life, hang out with your friends, do things because you can, because those people over there, they kind of can't right now. Anyway, well, how'd you get way off on this? Well, I'll tell you what, all that kind of falls under the umbrella of what Josephine brought up here at the beginning of this video, when she was talking about finding that common ground. And you know what? Forcing that common ground on somebody is kind of what we're trying to do today. And finding that common ground is to the individual. But that would mean being accountable for yourself and your own responsibilities, and we know that's not going to happen today, don't we? Because people aren't raised to do that. They're raised to be able to get on, and if they have a problem with something, they can find somebody to sympathize with them online, and they can spout their problems, and regardless of how irrational it is, regardless of how emo it is, regardless of how selfish it is, regardless of how thoughtless, regardless of how arrogant, inconsiderate it might be, they'll find somebody to back them, and then it can become an issue. And if you say anything about it, then you're infringing on that person's right in some way, shape, or form. So nobody's allowed to be corrected anymore, right? And nobody is required to correct themselves anymore. So nobody's accountable for their own actions and their own thoughts and their own behavior, all right? And then everyone's looking to the next guy trying to change his. When you're so screwed up yourself in the first place that, guess what? You're probably not going to be of much assistance to anyone else by giving them advice type thing. Well, Ninja, why don't you apply that to yourself? I will. Actually. I will. And I say, take it for what it's worth. And everything goes with a grain of salt. It's like, if you can't see this or you don't agree with it, that's cool too. And guess what? You're not a ninjaist. You're not hating on Ninja. You're not this or that if you don't agree with... You just don't agree. I don't like what you're saying, dude. That's fine. That's cool. And that's really kind of the whole principle right there in the first place. It's okay to say that. And it's okay to be that, right? Please don't kill me for it. Okay, that's going a little overboard. But if you say, hey, dude, I'm not cool with that. I don't like that, but I like this. You might like my videos, so you might be watching this for that reason. You might like hearing and being able to express an opinion here, whether you agree or don't agree, right? When you get vulgar about it, that's overboard. That's not called for. Not being vulgar with you guys type of thing. But if you say, hey, no, but I'm seeing this. And you know what? Does it work for you? That would be my challenge back to you, which is the same challenge I would give myself under any of these principles, is does it work? Is when you apply that, does that help? Does that benefit? Or do you become part of the problem? Right now, I see everybody's policies being a part of the problem, being just one more cancer cell, to where there's almost no healthy tissue left. And where do you find the solution like that? You just remove the cancer completely. And that's not the people, but their thinking. The stinking thinking needs to go. All right? And a lot has to do when it's summed up by Josephine's little policy there, which she wrapped up so sweetly in something that sounded good on the surface, but its foundation is a lie, is that, yeah, we need that common ground. Well, when you factor in human nature, that common ground usually implies a power that be giving themselves some kind of moral authority to dictate brainwash and if necessary, intimidate everyone else into submission to think that way, right? If you're not coming of your own free will, then anything I impose upon you, I'm not really going to change your heart. I'm just going to change your mouth. I might change what you say, but I'm not going to change the way you feel and think. That's where the change needs to take place. So someone needs to look at themselves and take inventory of their situation and their thinkings regarding what they would do regarding that situation, like, you know, the social and political atmosphere. How are you part of that? How does it apply to you? If you're not part of it whatsoever and you're just totally on the sidelines, that's one thing. It's kind of hard to be if you have to live in this world. You have to deal with the people that are in it, and the way they're acting is almost, it's insane. It's insane these days. I don't agree with you, so I'm gonna burn some shit down and loot it and steal it and this and that because of this guy over here, just on a principle. And that the type of thinking. Wait a minute. What about the person that owned that store? What did they do? Well, they belong to that group, and they're that color, so they must be guilty too. Isn't that just as racist as the stance that you're fighting against? And you stop, and I'm saying just to think. Doing more harm isn't going to make it good. How about everyone step back, take a deep breath, and it's not going to happen. And like I say, this isn't for everybody. This isn't really necessarily for anybody except an individual to take it upon himself and think. And if you just stop and think, that would be awesome. That would be better than it, because it seems like most people aren't even doing that these days. Not even thinking. They're just doing whatever their emotions tell them to do in the moment, immediately, and then finding somebody else doing the same thing so that they can feel right about it, no matter how harmful or destructive it was, because, hey, somebody else will pay for it, right? We're not accountable. And I'm kind of wondering, these billions and billions of dollars in property damage that is taking place like almost daily now, who's paying for that? Who's paying for that? It's not the people that aren't working and paying taxes. It's the average Joe Blow paying his taxes that's paying for all that in the long run. Probably the guy sitting at home saying, what the hell do I have to do with this? And how is this my bill? Why am I footing this? Right? And then you have the people on the other side of the spectrum saying, well, you need to pay for this because such and such happened whenever. And you know what? No, that person's really not obligated to pay for anything. You know, that person's just being a person. And it'd be nice if you were just being a person too. And so, anyway. Like I say, not going to solve any problems here, but it is some principles maybe to think about. Thinking to myself, and it seemed to make some sense. And like I say, if nothing else, it's something to think about. Not necessarily something to apply, but something to consider. All right, so we are down here at the southern end of the Storm Coast, and here's another lumberyard. We're going to need these for later in the game. It's going to be nice to collect. We found a few of these so far. We had to find one of those in one of the very first quests we did in Haven, at the very beginning, so we could make some tools and weapons for the Inquisition. Soldiers, it was a requisition, our very first requisition. And now having more logging stands will come in handy later. There's a cave right here. It's closed off to us now. I'm assuming we'll come back to that later in the game. But I figure we go ahead and head up this last little stretch of coast. We've gotten all the locations discovered in the Storm Coast so far by coming down to this last spot, and we have a lot of these black lotuses. They're like all up this coast. They're almost as numerous right here as the spindleweed are everywhere else. All right, and that's it. Back at Haven, we did get coal while we were dealing with the Templar issue, and I don't think I've assigned any points to him, so let me go ahead and level everybody up real quick. Since we're at Haven, I can level up the whole party. Let me give Cassandra Warcry and the upgrade. That's going to double her armor rating for about 15 seconds each time she spams that. Considering the cooldown on that is only like, I think, 20 seconds or so. She should essentially have double armor most of the time if she spams that. And that's pretty stout. Now, Cole, you know what? I'm not going to speak a lot on the dual-wield assassin yet. I'm saving this for my next character. And I will get into some builds with my assassin when I make one, if anyone's interested. I will look into that in depth, actually playing that. I'm trying not to so much spoil it for myself. It's going to almost make the game new for me when I start an assassin and play through like that and look around the skill trees and see what's a good party makeup and stuff. But my first impression here is to keep an assassin in stealth and get all the stealth-related damage bonuses you can. And, of course, any passives I can also. I've seen on a lot of other build videos that guys pass up passives because they say, well, this passive doesn't really apply to my playstyle. The passive in and of itself is going to give you +3 to an attribute. That in and of itself is worth taking, because that is building up your character's key stats. Like for a rogue, it would be cunning and dexterity. Why would you pass up cunning and dexterity for a rogue in any way, shape, or form if it's free? And if it gives you a passive buff, that's just an added bonus. But we'll get into that when I get into the assassin. Thanks for watching, listening to me rant. I really appreciate it. And if you want to subscribe, hit that button over my head. For Inquisition, click the top box. For all my videos, click the bottom. And I will catch you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.